Donnie and Dolly, the team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Today's guests, including Thomas Drance from The Athletic, standing by, brought to you by the Vancouver Giants. New this season, the Giants are offering 6 and 10 game ticket flex packs. Your tickets, your way. Pack starts at $129. For more information, visit vancouvergiants.com/flexpacks. Tonight is the Giants at the LEC against the Brandon Wheat Kings.
Oh, they don't come very often, the Wheat Kings. No. And when they do, it's a good time.
Mm-hmm. Their Lego and prop not playing tonight.
Ray Ferraro not playing tonight.
Very true. Okay, moving on. It's the Canucks in Philadelphia tomorrow. The Canucks are in Philadelphia right now, practicing this morning, as a matter of fact, in Pennsylvania. Here to talk about that and the Canucks season opening loss in Edmonton from The Athletic, Thomas Drance. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, boys. Just give me 1 sec. Let me grab a quick drink here.
Oh, very good.
Look at that. Look at that wonderful branding. Lovely. Thanks for the gift, boys.
Show your name. Show your name on the other side. Drance.
There you go.
Right there. Or does that
say me?
Or does it say Kojak?
It's me.
Does it say? Oh, it says
stop it. Stop it. Hey, I don't know what's in there, but I'm sure it tastes better because it's in a Donnie and Dolly container.
It does.
Yeah.
It's all about the receptacle, boys. It's all about the receptacle. Thanks for sending me such a fine one. I appreciate it.
You got it.
No 4-syllable words on this show, please, Thomas, okay? Wednesday's loss in Edmonton, they blow the 3-0 lead, 1-for-8 on the power play. Your takeaway from that?
Well, I'm not worried about the power play, right? I mean, of all the facets of Vancouver's game that I'm not worried about, it's their play 5-on-4. It obviously was a tough game for them, but that's one area where I think we're going to see the Canucks be extremely dangerous. I thought their 5-on-5 game looked good, not great. They obviously were the sort of better team on the shot clock, but I thought the Edmonton Oilers won, the battle in the neutral zone. I thought they had more speed when they attacked. And, the only thing that really concerned me about what we saw, gentlemen, was that third period, right? That it felt like once the Edmonton Oilers started playing a little bit more maturely, a little bit more responsibly, and stopped turning the puck over on their breakouts, right? Stopped feeding Vancouver's forecheck, that the Canucks didn't have a plan B, right? Like they struggled to attack as a 5-man unit. They had maybe one really heavy shift in the third period from the Pettersson line. That was kind of it. It's pretty quiet. I don't know if they struggled to sustain the intensity they need for that pressure game to work, or if the Oilers just turned it up a level, because that's a very good team. But in any event, I do think we saw some of the limitations of Vancouver's back end in terms of helping supply that, offensive push when the forecheck stops working, which it's inevitably going to, particularly against good battle-tested teams like the Oilers are.
Give me a Canucks positive from Wednesday. I know you tweeted out something about Vasily Podkolzin.
Well, I mean, Vasily Podkolzin led the team in 5-on-5 ice time. I thought his playmaking was incredible. I thought his puck carrying, particularly through the neutral zone, matched some of what we saw in the preseason. His skating looks improved. He looks far more comfortable carrying the puck. I thought it was one of the more dynamic offensive games we've seen from him, even if the scoreline doesn't reflect that. Just in terms of what he created, just in terms of what he was personally driving. And then, the Pettersson line I thought was great, right? I thought Kuzmenko looked fabulous, and I thought the Pettersson line was dangerous all night. But honestly, gentlemen, if I'm to take one real positive out of it, Kuzmenko easily could have had a 3 or 4 point night. Yeah. Right. I mean, you think about those feeds that he was sending, and not just to like anybody, like to 30 goal scorers. Right. And they just happened to be shanking them or missing them or what have you. But he had that one setup to Bo Horvat. He had that setup to Miller. In the third period, he had the setup to Pettersson. Pettersson just couldn't quite get the one-timer off on it. Kuzmenko's shot was what we noticed more during the preseason than his playmaking ability, but it's the threading of passes that's really his calling card. I thought that showed up and played instantly in his first NHL game. I think that's a very good sign that the Canucks might have a pretty intriguing piece on their hands.
Thomas, you heard Pat Morris on our show yesterday talking about Bo Horvat. What's your sense where they're at? Can they get this done? Are they too far apart? I mean, where's this going to end up?
Well, Richard, I did hear Pat Morris on your show yesterday.
Yeah.
Your colleague and friend.
Stop it. I got to deal with this guy on the agents. And look at you. You don't call agents, Thomas? Give me a break.
Anyway, just grinding your gears, my friend.
I know. I love
very sensitive.
I know. You love me almost as much as you love the Newport guys.
Oh.
I'm just going to keep digging here. Hey, look. The Horvat negotiation is obviously going to be a story we'll track. I thought the big takeaway from Morris's appearance was in line with some of what we've been expecting. This process is going to play out privately, and that is going to be jealously guarded, much like it was with Jacob Markstrom, right, during that 2019-20 season leading into the pandemic.
Yeah.
Even the idea of whether or not they'll negotiate, Morris described as a private matter.
Yeah.
I thought he was very careful.
Yeah.
Very careful. He even did what I sometimes do when I'm writing, where he was like, as Bo Horvat told the media, right? Like citing things as opposed to saying them outright.
Yeah.
He still sounded like a representative motivated to find his client a deal where he is. Right? I mean, that's one thing that I'd note. It still sounds to me, and this is consistent with everything I've heard behind the scenes, that, Bo Horvat likes it here, loves it here. And yet, Vancouver's cap situation's pretty cloudy here going forward, right? Yeah. There's a lot of sort of deals you'd probably prefer to carve out some flexibility on before you made an additional, $7 million commitment, $7+ million commitment to a player like Bo Horvat. One thing I thought was fascinating, too, was Morris's comment on Bo Horvat being a number 1C. Yeah. He's right. He's right. Like, I don't care where Bo Horvat takes line rushes at the moment in Vancouver. You can't find me 32 centerman better than Bo Horvat in the NHL. That makes him a number 1C. Like, he's right. Yeah. And yet, Vancouver's got the Pettersson situation looming. They've got the Miller commitment made. They've still got the Myers and OEL money on the books. You've got Garland signed for big money, Besser, on and on down the list, right? It's tough when you consider what Vancouver's going to have to balance here. The fact that really they're only going to have 4 defensemen signed beyond this season. Höglander's going to be up. Kuzmenko's going to be up. Yeah. And Bo Horvat, who's due a raise, who you don't get better losing, is the only expiring deal. Like, how do you balance it all? Surgery is required. And so, surgery is required before you make that commitment, I think, or shortly thereafter. So you can understand why this is one that may take a while, where the outcome remains uncertain, despite the fact that, it wasn't too long ago that the club was talking about formally making sure that they turned this team over to Bo Horvat. And we know from everything that's said both publicly and privately, that, Bo Horvat's preference is to remain on Canada's West Coast.
Yeah, big time. He instructed Pat to get the deal done in Vancouver. I want to ask you about Rathbone. He's not getting in the lineup, and yet you got Myers and Dermott hurt. So when those two come back, what's going to happen to him? This was supposed to be the year, Thomas. He cracked the lineup.
Well, at some point, Rick, it just becomes a bad sign that a 24-year-old defenseman can't crack a blue line group out of training camp that's this vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
Like, this should be a defense that a player can crack if they're going to be more than just a guy.
Yeah.
And looks like Rathbone's still going to get a shot here. I still think he's going to be on the 23-man roster. He's still got a one-way contract, right? I'm not pushing any panic buttons here, but it becomes a bad sign at some point if you can't crack this defense core. He's going to get a shot. There's going to be another injury at some point down the line, and he's going to have to take that shot in a more decisive fashion than he did during the preseason. I think that's pretty straightforward here. At the moment, anyway, I think the club looks at sort of their first choice their first choice third pair as Stillman with Dermott bumping over to the right side. And it's now on Jack Rathbone to dislodge one of those players. It's not going to be easy, right? Like, it's really not going to be easy. And yet, you know, he's kind of at the age of 24 running out of time to stake that claim and maintain his sort of perch as a top prospect, as opposed to another organizational depth guy, like another guy with really good offensive tools who doesn't seem to be able to earn trust to play defensively in the NHL on a regular basis. Like, you know, he's got everything. He's got all of the tools this team probably needs. His feet from the back end, but you know, at some point it becomes a pretty bad sign. Like, it's hard for me to look at it any other way.
Yeah. Thomas, let me go back to something you said earlier. You said that Pat Morris is right. Bo Horvat's a number one center. Didn't JT Miller get 99 points last season?
I suspect we're about to have an argument at cross purposes. Yeah, he did. JT Miller, for me, is also probably considered a number one center. Like, if you're one of the top 32 centermen in the league, Donnie, then you're capable of being the number one center for somebody, right? So that's
there you
how
go.
I'm,
that's what I thought you were talking about. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's how I'm presenting it. He's not the number one center on this team.
No.
Although, you know, I sort of wonder how long JT Miller played almost 25 minutes in Edmonton the other night.
Yeah.
At some point, surely, and I know there was a lot of special teams, like at some point they've got to take something off this guy's plate. Yeah. Right? Like, it's not fair to expect him to be at his best for 25 minutes. It's just too much. It's too much for any forward. You know, I do think the PK responsibilities, for example, would be a natural place to try and find someone else. You know, give JT Miller a breather here and there. You know, he's going to get carved in this market for things like, you know, decision-making with the puck, but he's always got the puck. Like, he's going to make the odd mistake, especially if you're overusing him, overextending him, right? And same thing goes with the defensive effort. It's one thing to maintain a really high defensive compete level for 17 minutes, but if you're doing it for 25, like, my goodness, right? That's a big ask. You know, I do think if this club's going to put their number one center in a position to succeed, you know, they better use him more like a traditional number one center and less like a traditional top pair defenseman.
You realize I wasn't intending to argue. I just wanted to help you out, because when you said Bo Horvat was the number one center, I know what's coming. I know what's coming next, and you're going to get it on Twitter. So I'm just trying to help you out. You explained yourself well.
Yeah, he's a first line caliber center. Is really what I'm saying. Like, he's a number one caliber center. And, you know, Pat Morris is angling for that type of valuation, as he should be. Yeah. I think he's dead on about the market dynamics. You know, I still think there's a reality of the flat cap era that Horvat and Morris are going to have to navigate. We saw it play out with Vincent Trocheck here over the course of this past summer. But, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a complicated one. One suspects it's probably going to linger at this juncture, and we'll see. Hey, we'll talk about it next week. How about that? And then the week after.
Yes. Well, don't worry about that. That will happen. Take care of that Donnie and Dolly souvenir, okay?
Yeah.
All right.
I will. Thank you, boys. It's beautiful.
No problem. Next week.
As good as the Baileys inside of it.
Oh.
That would explain a lot.
That explains the Horvat comment. All right, thanks. Thanks, Thomas. Appreciate it, buddy.